Welcome to the Communication Workshop. I'm Abby Wick. I'm the NDSU Extension Soil Health Specialist. So I work primarily with farmers, with other educators, including our county agents, NRCS organizations, anyone that brings information out to people that are going to put it on the ground. So that's my role at NDSU.
My name is Tim Hamrich. I work in communications consulting. I have been hosting the Soil Sense podcast along with Abby for the last over a year now, almost 2 years going on for that podcast, and I've been in communications for several years. Collaborating over just coordinating.
Yeah, this is an exciting concept, and it was one that I didn't really think much about those terms until I met Jean Haley, our evaluation specialist, and so we've brought on this panel Brad Brummond, who is an NDSU Extension agent up in Walsh County, Sarah Johnstong, who is with Walsh County Soil Conservation District. So she and Brad work pretty closely together, and then also Susan Samson-Liebig, the state soil quality specialist with NRCS, and Susan and I work quite a bit hand in hand on soil practices. So welcome everybody, and maybe let's go around and do introductions. I think Jean, we've already met you, so we know about you. So I'm not going to ignore you, but let's move on to Brad as far as an introduction, please.
I'm Brad Brummond, Walsh County Extension agent. I've been in Extension now for almost 40 years. I've been in Walsh County now for 28. By the way, I was Lee Breeze's 4-H crops judging coach. That's how old I am, okay?
Claim to fame.
But yeah, that's kind of my background. I also was inducted in National County Agents Hall of Fame about 15 months ago.
Oh, that's right. So congratulations on that, Brad. That was such an awesome thing for both you and NDSU to be inducted into that. Let's go to Sarah.
So I'm the Soil Conservation District Manager here in Walsh County, and I've been working in conservation for about 8 years now. My dad is a farmer down in Richland County in southeastern North Dakota. And I just really enjoy my work, working with farmers and working with our partners.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah, for joining us. And Susan.
Hello, everybody. I'm Susan Samson-Liebig, and I'm the State Soil Quality Specialist for NRCS here in North Dakota. I've been with the agency here in North Dakota for about 15 or so years, but the agency more than 30 years. And my whole career has been basically working with soils and soil quality, soil health as well. So current position is we do a lot of outreach to the public, not just ag producers, but also the urban side as well, on the education, as well to agency staff, but then also just the general public on soils and soil health.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Susan, for being here. And most of you probably don't know, but Susan and I have known each other for 17 or 18 years, because when I was doing my master's work in North Dakota, I'd met Susan. So a long time back there. So we've done a lot of collaborating over the years. Maybe let's kick off with, what is the difference between collaboration and coordination? And I think, Jean, if you can touch on that, that would be excellent.
Sure. So over the years, I've been doing, evaluation in agriculture for 20 years or more. And a lot of what I'm evaluating are these supposed collaborative projects. Well, a lot of times when I come in and I actually observe what's happening, folks are sometimes just barely coordinating efforts. And so you don't get to call yourself collaborators just because you're on the same grant together, right? You have to be actually sharing information. Coordination, you don't want to stop coordinating. You definitely need to coordinate efforts. You want to be able to organize people to do the work that they need to do. And it's sort of more the administrative side of things. The collaboration part is really about sharing information with each other and helping each other design and move forward with a program, and actually having conversation. And the collaboration takes a really good leader with a good leadership skills.
Oh, perfect. Thank you for clarifying that. I think that'll help us move forward in this conversation. Brad, you've done a lot of collaboration over the years, and it kind of started early on in your career. So can you take us through kind of a personal story on how you've approached extension in Walsh County?
Well, you kind of got to understand where I come from. I've been around a long time. I started in Trail County, which is Red River Valley County. I went out in Hettinger County, which was out west, and I got their crop marketing and crop scouting stuff going together. And I've been involved with 4-H for a very, very long time. And when I got to Kidder County, I stopped by the local watering hole one night, and I got jumped by a very angry, big Romanian. He weighed about 300 pounds and was about 6'6" tall. And he told me the NDSU wasn't doing anything for the organic people and they could just shut their doors and go home. And I told him if he felt that way, he'd come up and talk to me the next morning. And to his credit, we did. And we started working together in organic agriculture. My first meeting, I was really afraid it was going to be a failure. The fire marshals showed up and started throwing people out of the room because we had too many there. That was my first dabbling in collaboration. I was one of a handful of people in the state of North Dakota that helped grow and establish the organic community. Okay, so that was my first experience. And when I came up to Walsh County, it was kind of a different deal. I replaced a very long-term county agent that was very set, and I was changing things, and I needed some allies and I needed some help. And I started working with my fair and my 4-H and my crop improvement, my livestock improvement. And we got together and we started doing things. And back about 2010 or somewhere in there, we started, my crop and livestock improvement got together and we started with 2 acres of cover crop. That's how simple this was. We started with 2 acres of cover crop and we started doing cover crop demonstrations, and it kind of took off, and NRCS was doing kind of their thing, and Soil Conservation, they were doing their thing, and I was doing my thing. And I just sat down one day and I said, this is crazy. We got to get together here, and we got to leave me at the door and become we, and we got to put this all together. And that's when our soil health group kind of informally came together, and it was almost by, I don't know, I wouldn't say it just happened. Okay. And we got together, and I met Sarah, and I got more involved with the local SED board, which I'd actually stopped going to because they were planting trees and they didn't need any help planting trees. And I wasn't interested in planting trees. I was interested in making a difference in the world. And if we weren't going to make a difference in the world, I wasn't going to be involved because I had other bigger plans for my life to make a difference. So, and then we got, Then we've got Dan Vogley, a crystal agronomist, with us on sugar beets. We started talking to General Mills about our big crazy dreams, and we came up with this idea that the only way we're going to get people to get into conservation beets is we had to buy off the risk. So we got a grant from that private company I talked about to buy off the risk. And down the road we've gone. Now we've morphed it into a strip tillage weed control program with Tom Peters, and we've taken it up and down the valley. It's now in Pembina. It's going to be in Kitson. It's going to be in Grand Forks. It's going to be in Trail. Once you start collaborating and you're working with really, really top flight people that have a passion, you multiply it. 2 + 2 isn't 4. It's 8. It's 12. It's 14. That's a huge number. And if you're not collaboration, if you've never done it, this is going to change your life. I tell you, change mine. I'll quit there.
Oh, that's great. And I know, Sarah, you've mentioned a little bit too how you've been in some conservation positions before, but then this one in Walsh County has really lit a fire for you too, and working with Brad, and that's been a very good experience for you.
Like Brad said, certainly there were some things going on there to begin with, but we really needed to get out of our tunnel vision. And Brad and I, we sat down a few times and talked about tunnel vision and how could we all get on the same page. So for us, I kind of see that we acknowledged that we were kind of in our own worlds, and we acknowledged that we had some overlapping goals. And then eventually, I guess, Brad, we just found a project we were really all excited about and just kind of took off after it. And then we had a group, but to start with, I was a coordinator of a watershed program. And, you know, like you said, it's a lot of tasks, it's a lot of administrative type of work and getting things put together. But I tell you what, once it became a collaboration, this thing had a life on its own. So it really didn't matter who your coordinator was, because even if your coordinator were to quit at the end of the day, you still have your collaboration left. So even if I leave, say right now, the soil health team is still going to be there and there's still going to be an awesome project going on. So that to me has been the big difference between being a coordinator and actually having a true collaboration. Even though we one day kind of woke up and said, holy cow, we have a collaboration, you know? So that was kind of a weird thing about our group, but we did it without really thinking about it. And that's kind of the progression it took.
And a follow-up question with that, Sarah, as you look around and there's other people that are maybe coordinating but not collaborating, what's the hard part? I guess what's the part that you really need to be intentional about for it to form with you versus, you know, I know you mentioned it kind of happened over time, but what do you think started down that road versus others that never seem to get together and collaborate?
You know, for me, I do remember going to people and thinking, wow, I really need their expertise. And then taking opportunity to let them know, I really need your expertise, and this is how you could be really effective towards this goal that we both have if you work with me. So it was really letting them know what value they could have, and then asking them what I could maybe help them with. And, you know, the next thing we know, we're working on the exact same things with the same message across the board.
Nice. Now, Susan, you've taken a lot of these collaborations to a national level. So we see what's happening in Walsh County. We see how that's expanding now through the Red River Valley, through the projects that they're doing. And how is it different collaborating at a national level versus one of the more regional levels?
You know, actually, when you scale this up to a national level, obviously you're gonna be working with probably more players on your team. But honestly, the concepts are basically the same. And so I don't know, but it was easy. I mean, prior to coming to North Dakota, that's pretty much what I was doing, was working on this national scale. So learning how to do that and then being able to bring it down to more of a state regional scale actually was fairly easy. So yeah, at the national scale, you're probably going to have a few more players, but the way that you operate is very similar at the regional scale.
So now I wonder with some of these collaborations, you know, do they always have to be very visible and this united front that's visible, or can sometimes these collaborations happen under the radar where people maybe don't see some of these things happening? And I think that's a lot of what Susan and I do with the soil health program in North Dakota, is we kind of operate under the radar. And so Susan, what are some of the things that you'd recommend, and, you know, just even in the background of coordinating some of these efforts with others?
So I think that key is to always be communicating, and then also, of course, making sure that you have the people that you know that you need to be working with in order to meet the objective of what you're trying to do. So yeah, so you're always kind of, I know, like with Abby, you know, we've worked a lot behind the scenes, or, you know, try to get things going. So yeah, just pretty much just knowing who it is that you want on your team, what is it that you're trying to get done.
Brad, question for you. Have you always just been collaborative? Is it just your nature? Or, you know, I know you talked about how some of these collaborations got started. Was there a shift in mindset for you that led to those collaborations ultimately happening? I'm just wondering, for those in the audience who might be wondering, am I doing enough to promote collaborations?
Let me tell you a little bit about my family. I grew up with two very opinionated and strong people. One, my sister has got a veterinary clinic out in Dickinson, and my brother's a farmer, and I'm the shy, bashful one, believe it or not. So I was the one that always brought peace to our family in many cases. So it came fairly naturally to me. But you know, I saw early in my career that when I was a young agent getting started is that I needed help. If anybody tells you that you're ready to be a county agent, when you become a county agent, they're lying to you. Nobody's ready for this gig, okay? So you needed help, and you needed people to help you meet people. You needed help people to get you down the road. And the really aha moment for me was when we started going down that organic road. And we started going down that organic road in the late 80s in Kidder County. And I was one of the very, very few people from NDSU that would even talk to organic people or give them time of day. Unfortunately, that was a culture and the way it was back then. And it was a hard road. And we took some pretty unpopular stances in the organic industry that NDSU didn't always appreciate. Okay. And I was part of NDSU. So when they started talking smack about NDSU, I say, well, wait a minute here. I'm sitting right here. I got the NDSU jacket on. So both groups had an in. The organic people had an in to NDSU, and NDSU had an in to the organic people. And I was kind of the conduit for the flow. And that became very, very successful. And right now the organic community and North Dakota State University have an excellent, I wouldn't call it an excellent relationship, but I call it a really good relationship. And they're communicating, they're researching together, and it's a great thing. That's how I got into it.
So as you're saying, some of those conversations or even the collaborations can be challenging, you know, and so what happens when you're working with, you know, with other individuals who maybe don't quite see the same thing that you see or have different ideas on how things are going to go, and how do you diffuse that situation? And I think, Susan, on our planning call, you had mentioned, you know, being in one of those situations, kind of thrown into it in a way. How did you handle that situation?
Well, I think that key during that time was just making it clear that really we were all on the same page and what we were trying to accomplish. So, you know, we weren't coming in with our own set agendas, but rather just really trying to reinforce the fact that it was important that we all were working together for the good. And so I just think that it was just, you know, just understanding initially, you know, where everybody was at, and then just trying to just reinforce that really, you know, we're all on the same page, and we're trying to work together, and we have to. So I think once that happened, then I think that kind of diffused that probably, I don't know if it really wasn't, it's not really like a lack of trust, but it was like that uncertainty that really, are you sure that we should be working together? But it definitely helped. So it's just basically, it's just, you know, sitting down and communicating.
Gene, you've seen this from a unique vantage point. You know, maybe if I could put you on the spot here just a minute, when do well-meaning collaborations turn into just simply coordination or worse? You know, what's sort of the barrier to actually getting to that point where you can call it true collaboration?
I guess in my experience on the projects that I've worked on, it usually starts out as coordination. They think it's collaboration. So it doesn't like start as a collaboration and then break down. And it starts from the very beginning with the planning process. You know, nowadays with these USDA grants, you have to have, you know, multiple universities and multidisciplinary. And so you can have a grant that's got 20 researchers on it. Well, that's like herding cats sometimes, right? So it's easier to just coordinate when we have to have our reports done, and, you know, let everybody go off and trust that they're going to do their work, and then we'll pull together when it's report time. And so when I come in and I kind of see that happening, I just give them a few tools for actually starting to do a little bit more collaborative work. And, you know, at a minimum, they could at least meet once a year for planning, to figure out what are we all going to do this year on our research plots, or how are we going to design our stuff. Ideally, if you could start working, once a month, build in a monthly call just to check in. I've been on a current project that, when I first got in a couple of years ago, there was really no collaboration at all. The team leaders hadn't even spoken to their teams within the project. And just by giving them that one tool of, hey, check in once a month, just to see what everybody's doing, it has come a long way in a couple of years. And now they check in every month and they're actually providing feedback for each other and getting questions answered. And I think that it's really a very cohesive group. So build it into the planning is really what has to happen. Build that in.
Collaborators drive each other. Collaborators dream together. Collaborators cheer each other on when the going gets tough. We're in this together. We're marching together. And collaborators, they're what's going to hold you up and when times get tough. They're gonna help you dream, and they're gonna help you stay in there when you want to leave. That's the difference between a collaborator and a coordinator.
That's great insight. And, hearing Jean talk about that shift from coordinating into collaboration, and then hearing you say that, Brad, I have firsthand knowledge of that group she's talking about, where it really was just coordinating. And then all of a sudden, when we made that switch into collaboration, it was like everything changed. The conversations became more in depth and more helpful to each other, and yeah, backing each other up and helping each other out. Really, that transition that Brad's talking about happens. So it's pretty important, I think, to get from that coordinating. It's definitely much more fulfilling to get to that collaboration stage. So I'd like to, let's see, I wonder if we should go back to Sarah. And we're not getting a ton of questions here in the Q&A, so I'm going to encourage everybody in the last 5 minutes to ask some questions in there. Otherwise, Tim and I will keep rambling on.
I got all kinds of questions.
So it was great. Last time we asked for questions, we got quite a few, which is good. And we certainly want to leave those questions up in the chat for some of the panelists to answer later as well. But I think, Sarah, I'm trying to think, as you guys coordinate and you move your project from your county beyond with General Mills, what are some of the things that you're doing to reach out either to other soil conservation districts or to obviously NDSU now that you're all working together? What are some of the things that you're doing to take that collaboration even further?
Well, we're only 1 year into our project right now, but I think in our plans, we'll definitely have tours and invite people in the region that want to attend those so they can see our progress firsthand. Also, I wouldn't be surprised if we do some videos, considering we're working in the COVID world. But I think really it's a story that I find I end up talking about with absolutely everybody from a soil conservation district. So I guess I kind of carry it around with me like a third child, because I already have 2 children, and just be ready to give an elevator speech really on the project. And I think all of us in the collaboration are very good at doing that. And I think it's just going to spread the word even more. So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to take some of your media ideas that you talked about this morning, and just continue to grow things using media.
Oh, perfect. I wonder, should we go around and do what we did with some of the other panels?
Yeah, give everyone one more chance to add some final thoughts. Susan, maybe we could start with you. To an audience here that's wondering how could they collaborate more and get more for everybody out of these collaborations. What are just general advice either that you've already heard today that you want to emphasize, or new thoughts that you wanted to bring to the table before we close out this panel?
I probably just would advise, to get out and to network. For me, it was attend meetings, attend workshops. Just you have to meet people. So when you have a project that you are going to be working on, and you know that you need partners or people to help you with that. It's really helpful to be able to know some people already that you can tap into. So I think that networking piece is very important. And that's probably the first step, I think. For me, it's just being able to go out and meet people and then being able to help pull from some of those people to help you out, and to build your team.
That's great advice. Can I follow up a little bit on that as to how might that change for you, Susan, in COVID times? Hopefully we'll get back to the face-to-face, but how has that changed for you now with being virtual?
Yeah, I know. Well, I think just, like all of us, here we are sitting in I'm in my kitchen. It's, it's different, but on the other hand, we're so lucky we have this technology that we're able to still be able to stay connected. So even though, yeah, it's not as desirable as being able to be face to face and being with people, but I think with technology that we have, and we can still, I think, be able to accomplish our missions and being able to do and build a work together. This is, it's just something we're just going to get used to, but it's certainly, because of the situation we're in, to me, it's not stopping our work. So we're just having to adapt.
Great, thank you.
Jean, how about you? Any final thoughts on collaboration?
I just want to point out that I know we only have a couple minutes left, but there were a couple of really good questions here that I think would be great. They happened in the chat instead of the Q&A, but one of them is collaboration the same as partnership? And if not, please explain. I think it depends on how you're running your partnership. If you're just coordinating your partners, then it's a coordination. And if you're collaborating as full partners, then it's definitely collaboration. So it all depends on the situation. The other question that I think is a good one to address is for Sarah is you had mentioned knowing that it's a collaboration because if you leave, then it's still going to keep going. What is it that changed and how did it change? I know we only have a couple minutes.
Okay, so to quickly answer that, I would say that there's been a very evident bond within the group that they enjoy talking to each other outside of the meetings. There's a lot of one-on-ones taking place. People are moving and grooving on contacts all the time with producers and all kinds of stuff. So because there's so much work going on outside of me and my other staff person in this office. So it's not just solely on our office really to keep that effort going, because our partners are, like we like to say, they're on fire and they really enjoy working with each other. And that's what changed, to see that dynamic, or what's the word you use, Brad? Synergy, the synergy. Yep, it's synergy.
Great. Well, let's let Brad have the final thoughts here. I found your podcast that you were on, the Soil Sense podcast, Brad, so motivational. So I'm sure you've got some motivation for us as we close out the workshop today.
I think the big message I would say is this not that difficult. You just have to leave me at the door and take on you have to find your passion mates, I call them. You got to work for the synergy. And you gotta trust each other, and you gotta communicate, and you gotta trust that we're gonna go down this road together and it's all gonna work. And it always does not work, but you know what? If you're going down the road together and you're singing your song and you got the right company, it's a lot easier. So we can do this. I think you can all set it up.
And everybody gets credit too, right, Brad? Whole team gets credit. There's not one person taking the credit.
Absolutely.
Or doing a presentation somewhere that's not mentioning NRCS or extension or a private agronomist or the watershed program. When you talk about the project, you talk about every single collaborator involved in the same breath.
I've had a lot of people try to end run our group through me, and I don't tolerate it. I said, no, I can't make the decision for the group. I'm not allowed to do that. I'm one member of the group. So don't ask me to make the decision. And you got to be, when people start doing that to you, you got to point out, no, I'm not going there. It's a group deal. It's not a me deal.
Forming connections. I mean, that was certainly from our very first panel about facilitating a discussion, to form connections, not just to talk at, but to actually form a true connection, all the way through to collaboration, what you just heard about. It's all about forming these connections and finding a way to leave me at the door and take on we, just like Brad just said.